Hey everybody, we're back. This is Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner,
And I'm Victoria.
and you're watching the 61st episode of the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast. What are we talking about today, Victoria?
61st. We are reviewing The Cure Part 3 and The Imagination Station Revisited Part 2, and I think in that order.
Yes.
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 Okay.
That's right. Before we start, we have a news item, which is that album 60 has been announced already. Yes. You can jump down to the description there to find a link to the album cover.
There's a picture.
Album 60 is called Head Over Heels. And the cover.
And guess what? More Ava, less David, like usual.
The cover features what looks like Ava Parker, maybe Olivia Parker, frantically riding a bike through town. And that's about all we know about it so far. So
I don't think it's Olivia. Ava looks very young, though.
Of course, maybe it's a flashback. I don't know. More updates on that as the story progresses, as always. Other than that, we have
What if it's Ava and how she
David.
met David, and they're
because
telling
they're talking
Wooten
about
and Penny?
marital stuff. That would make sense. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I like that. Anyways,
Not that we know about Wooten and Penny's future relationship or anything, because
oops, nothing. Victoria,
Devin, look at what you've done.
this is your fault on multiple counts. I'm absolved of any guilt here.
Yeah, but you acknowledged it. You were involved.
I acknowledge that you're guilty. All right, on to the episode, The Cure Part 3, which is, of course, the newest episode to have ever come out and that we've ever heard.
Actually, I've heard BTV to tell the truth.
No, you haven't, because this is the April review. BTV hasn't come out yet.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Silly me.
Silly Victoria. It's not July.
Knee slapper.
Okay. The Cure Part 3, episode 768, written by Dave Arnold. So, we begin with finding out that Logan's mom is the nurse.
What? Who would have ever called that?
Insert Tim Allen surprise noise, mugging the camera.
Victoria looks at the camera like she's on The Office.
Yeah. I am very glad that we did not draw out that plot twist
I
for a very
know.
long time.
I was like listening and I'm just like, and she's like, oh, you know people here? And she's like, they name these people. And she's just like, oh my gosh. And then she ran out and I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, huh. And I look at the timestamp and it's like 3 minutes in and I'm just like, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was so glad that we got that off the table immediately
Me
instead
too.
of pretending that everybody did not know that. So, yeah. I find it
And
funny
I'm also
how...
glad that no one had like a what reaction. Like Wooten had a bit of one, but then he like figured it out like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, it made me happy. I find it funny how no matter where in the world Jeff goes, he can't get away from playing triage nurse. It is his inescapable role.
He's just so good at
He
it.
can't fight his destiny. At least he didn't have to speak Spanish this time.
Yeah.
Or Tiktalit, I guess.
I was so confused what happened with the death. I was like, who's
Okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
What? I didn't know who was dead because I was only like, I was listening, but then they just like jump cut. And then they're just like, someone's dead. And I didn't have all the names memorized. So I'm just like, wait, is he the missionary guy? Is he like Wooten's friend? Or is he the dad? And I'm like, I think it's the dad. But why would they leave that scene out? And I was like so confused. And
Yeah, okay, we'll get there.
yeah.
So first, we have Wooten texting Penny after, nurse mom arrives to treat Logan. He's like, Penny,
That was great.
He's like, Penny, I'm texting quietly. And I was like, really, Wooten? Why don't you turn off the keyboard noises on your phone? I mean...
Maybe he has like not an Apple phone.
No, but
like,
he does. Which is my other point, which is it is
Are you
worth...
sure?
It's worth noting then that Wooten has an iPhone because those are the iPhone keyboard noises that it's making.
Oh.
So...
Oh, I thought you were talking about like computer typing?
No, when he was texting.
And then he was texting that and you're like, stop texting on your computer. What the heck?
Yeah, I am texting quietly.
That's why I was laughing.
But No, he was texting on his phone, but you could hear like the tick, 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 tick noise that the iPhone makes. I'm like, why don't you turn off the noises
So
then,
like
Wooten?
you can't turn those off.
Yeah, you can.
You well,
I
tell
turned
me then.
I turned it off like 5 minutes after I got my phone. It's pretty
Oh
easy.
man, you have to show me
I'm
that
pretty sure
later
it's
on.
accessibility under accessibility in settings. So yeah,
Mm.
because they're annoying, the keyboard noises. Anyways,
Yeah, they are.
Wotan does an amazing shout out to the Shatner pauses, which was great when he
Spa.
yeah. Over there.
There was so
Zuzu set
much
a
great
course.
stuff with Jess Harnell this episode. Like he got to do a little Shatner impersonation, and at the end we got to hear him sing, and it was so great.
I have to say that The Cure is Putin's second highest point post hiatus behind life expectancy.
I know this. Okay, I will talk about it later. I'll go into it later.
Anyway, so like you were saying, yeah, in my I figured this was going for the super cliche route. So like Lewis falls, and then I'm like, wow, I can't believe they fake killed off Lewis for more than a commercial break cliffhanger because he falls, it's like, oh, and then they did this huge jump cut from the cabin to the hospital and everything's said and done. I was like, wow, I can't believe they
I
actually.
was so confused.
I'm like, I can't believe they drew out his whole fake death. He fell and oh, he actually died. Like,
Can I just interject that I feel the need to apologize for 2 episodes ago when I was nagging on cliffhangers and I said because we all know they're going to come out safely at the end.
yeah, exactly.
I just feel the need to apologize about that because he actually died in this situation.
I was like, well, I can't, this is so obvious. He's like, oh, I fell. And then it's like dramatic cliffhanger. I'm like, obviously, after the commercial break, he's to be like, oh, I caught this ledge. Ha ha ha, cliffhanger.
Yeah,
and
like
stuff.
Griff in Red versus Blue. And it's like, we all know he obviously caught the ledge.
Literally everything, yeah. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean. In RVB, they called it out. But they cut to the hospital. I was like, wow, I can't believe they're actually drawing out Lewis's death. And then they mention it. Oh, and I really like how they did, they did a good job with Wooten's messages to Penny being a very efficient expository device for all these huge cuts to use his messages to Penny to explain things and stuff. And then I was like, well, Lewis is actually dead? Like, what?
Yeah.
And then they actually confirmed it. They're like, they picked up the body and everything, and I was like,
yeah, I was listening to that, and I'm like, no, I don't believe you. Like, this has got to be some kind of joke or something. I just
kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I did not see that coming because I thought it was just going to be another unbelievably dreary, predictable thing where he falls and they think he's dead, but it turns out he just hit another ledge and then he climbed out later and followed them all the way back, and he arrives at the hospital like, surprise, I'm actually alive, and now I'm a Christian because he knew that God saved him from dying, and now I saved.
And he sees his wife, he's like, surprise, mother, and then he goes up and he hugs her.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting, and I was very, very wrong.
Yeah.
I was like,
about that.
Even though I was like, no, but even if they left and stuff, he's still going to crawl his way back out and walk back all the way because he lived. And they're like, they went and they picked up his body and they buried it now. They threw his ashes and everything. And I was like, what?
Yeah. What? I like how this episode, it could have taken the predictable route and gotten him out, but it didn't do that. And the only predictable thing really about this episode
was the mom.
This 3-parter was the wife thing, and even then they said it right away.
Well, right away after an entire part of her going around.
Well, she wasn't. It's not like she wasn't in the entire second part. She wasn't actually in it that much.
Yeah, true. Whatever. Yeah. Penny didn't have unlimited texting.
Yeah.
Come on, Penny. What year is this? Especially considering how close you are with Wooten. You know that he's going to text you every day and night. He already texts you every day and night.
Depending on when this story takes place, I know what you mean by they're close, but we don't know how close they are.
But
yet.
I'm saying, as friends, Wooten's been texting Penny every day and night for years, so she should already have unlimited texting.
You would think. You would be wrong.
Yeah, I guess so.
She's like, texting limits my creative artistry. And Connie's like, how does that make any sense? And she's like, shh. Once you can paint baby dolphins on the ceiling, then we'll talk. And then Connie's like, but I drew the bunny. With the fangs.
Really hoping for, because it was so well set up, and it didn't happen, that this whole, like, Lewis dying and his last words and, like, being a father to you, Logan, and all these failures would have prompted Wooten to have something with his own family, whether in person or by proxy, that we hear about some kind of emotional more closure with that, and it didn't happen.
Even if Wooten wanted to have something like that, he does already. Like, he does want to have a great relationship with his father, but his father would never let that happen.
I know. I'm just saying it was set up so well for that to have, something to have happened there. Or at least mention of Wooten saying, like, oh man, it made me feel sad about my family and stuff like that, or some kind of connection, especially since they already mentioned in part 1 and he's already in Alaska.
It would have been nice to have that line. Because it's kind of like a Christmas conundrum, how it, like, starts with Grady, ends with Grady. It starts with Wooten talking about his parents, it ends with Wooten talking about his parents. But the thing is, that wasn't really the focus here. So,
But it would have been a nice wrap for a character, for one of the only 2 characters in the episode who is ever going to appear again. Sorry, go on. What?
Can I just go on a bit of a, I don't even know what it is, it probably won't be that long.
Let's find out.
Talk about this episode. So I have some things, Devin. Say about this episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Expand.
So the first part, it was good, but I wasn't, like, crazy about it. I was like, yeah, I like the themes, I like the characters, I like this, but there's part of me that's just not feeling it, although it's really good. Second episode, I'm just sitting there, I'm like, it's so predictable, it's gonna happen. Third episode, it was like a curveball. It's like I was up to bat, and I'm just like, yeah, they're gonna hit a slow pitch, I'm gonna get this. And then I go to swing, and then the ball just hits me in the face. And then I just have so many feels. And
look at you with the sports metaphors. You're a regular Mrs. Sellers or a regular Dave Strider, one of the two.
I was going to make a Dave Strider joke.
All the sports, all of them. Oh yes, don't think I didn't forget about the sports. That's one of my favorite Rose Dave conversations
Me
ever.
too. I just reread that
the end of
about
Act 5.
Ago. So, like, it was so good. I just can't really even put it into words. I was going into the episode and I was kind of like, because it's like, it's going to be the mom and they're going to pass it off as, like, a shocking revelation. Like, a couple minutes in, like we said already, they say it and I'm like, oh, it's really nice to have that out of the way. And then, like, the father dies and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they have, like, the huge scene with a flashback and I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so emotional from that. And then I was like, that really touched me. And then I'm thinking, like, okay, this episode, that must be like the ending scene. And I look at it, we're like 10 minutes in. There's a whole bunch more. And then I'm just like, oh my gosh, it feels like it's been so long. So, like, so much stuff happened that fast in the episode. And then I started, like, cleaning my room as I was listening to it. And then, like, at the ending scene, I know we're not there in your notes yet, but, like, the entire ending half, I listened to it while I was cleaning my room. And then just, like, all the ending stuff, it was so emotional for me to listen to. And all of the script, we were nagging on the script in the last episode, but this script could not have been more perfect. And I'm just listening to it. I'm getting so emotional. And, like, the last scene where it's, like, the singing and stuff, I'm listening to it, and then people are, like, clapping and cheering. I actually felt like I was at a youth conference. Like, I had the feels and I had the butterflies that you, like, feel every time you're at a youth conference. And I almost started, like, clapping too, and I'm sitting there and I'm just like, oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then, like, the thing with the penny, and it's like, no matter how much it goes through, you can still spend it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And then And then, oh, I'm tearing up. It was
I should point out, I have
so
it
good.
as a trivia point later on, but I'll just say it right now since it's relevant. The reason that you got like such a live reaction from the music bit is because that audio was actually recorded at an actual Carry the Cure conference.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so
Oh,
when the
man.
band's playing, all the people are clapping. That's from an actual retreat thing that Carry the
I'm
Cure did.
actually tearing up right now. This episode was so good.
So, anyways, in the hospital, we have a flashback, like you said, to the crevasse. And when it originally happened, when Lewis falls down, my first expectation was it was going to be like the classic guy on the bottom has to sacrifice himself.
I thought he was going to become a Christian, and he didn't. And I kind of appreciate that in a way. It makes it seem more realistic, in my opinion. What do you think?
I'd have to agree. It's sad, but it did fit well, I think, and it was sort of like he kind of did, but he kind of didn't sort of thing. Anyways, my expectation was it was going to be like, the classic, like the guy on the button has to sacrifice himself and cut his own rope so the other guy can survive. I was having flashbacks to like The Day After Tomorrow and every other movie where two people are roped together and they fall off of something high.
Like even Cadet Kelly has this, guys. Even Cadet Kelly.
You remember that? When was the last time
I
you
watched
that
it a
movie?
couple years ago when we went to visit Dennis. Like, I watched it last year.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyways, but then I was like, well, that wouldn't happen because obviously they're not going to kill Lewis. I was like, maybe he's going to cut his rope and then fall, but then he lands on a ledge anyways and he survives. So it's like, it's the thought that counts. He was going to sacrifice himself even though he didn't know that he would survive. And now it seems that that's actually what did happen, is he did like do the whole thing and cut his rope and then fall and die. And wow, it is not very often that you hear someone take their own lives on this show. Blackguard is the first case that always comes to my mind, and King Lawrence's in Darian's Rise Part 9 is definitely the most graphic because he literally blew his brains out in front of Kyle, who is probably scarred for the rest of his life.
Not probably, he was.
So, yeah, and of course, a lesson from Mike is not technically suicide, but they like set it up in the way that it could be the closest thing to a suicide without it literally being that.
Wasn't it like he got hit by a train?
Well, no, he fell off the trestle, so it wasn't suicide because he didn't willingly fall off, but he fell off because he always goes there when he was feeling depressed and stuff like that, so they made it like it was caused by the same things that would cause suicide, but he didn't actually willingly do it, so it was like suicide, but without the intention to soften it down.
Like, that, it's like assisted suicide without other people involved.
No.
Which is like, the definition of assisted suicide.
No, that's not what it is at all, but...
I mean, like, other people being involved in a...
Yeah, I know what you mean, but no, that's not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was really glad that we were able to hear Will speaking at least one speech for Carry the Cure, like to actually get to do a rally. And it was also really good to hear more about his story, and so we can also add child abuse.
I was so surprised at his story. Like, I was sitting there and I'm like...
Oh, we'll get to that from the video.
Not expect that.
When they get to the video and the actual guy talks about it. But yeah, we can also add child abuse to
Wait, is all that a true story?
Add child abuse to the long and laundry list of heavy topics touched on in this episode. And then, see, even kids in native Alaska know how to pronounce Rin properly. Funimation, step up. When he's like, what's your name? He's like, Rin. I was like, wait. I like rewound it. And he's like, what's your name? Rin. And I like rewound it again. And I was like...
And then the third time you heard Reen. And you're like, no.
No, it's funny because I learned from the video it's actually rain. Not rain like fall from the sky, but rain like a king's reign, R-E-I-G-N. And that is how it's pronounced. They actually mispronounced rain as Rin in the episode, of all things.
They're like, at least they apologized for mispronouncing it. Funimation can't do that.
They didn't.
Actually, Vic Mignogna apologized. But
oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, yeah, overall, I feel like the episodes lost a little momentum in the second episode, but overall, it's really good.
The third one came in strong, and it punched me in the stomach, and it made me cry.
Yeah, so anyways, the video starts, and first they're talking to, not Rin, but Rain, who is Bill's son in real life. Obviously not in the episode, he wasn't. And his name is spelled and said as Rain, like the king had a long and prosperous reign, and not Rin, as in Rin is a sappy shoujo crying shark. So it's funny that they mispronounce
Cherry petals.
It's funny that they mispronounce Rain as Rin instead of Rin as Reen. That kid from part 1 who said that Wooten's voice sounded familiar, and we're like, is that supposed to be like something? And we're not picking up on it. They showed the full uncut scene in the recording studio. The original line ended, "Your voice sounds familiar, kind of wacko." But apparently the end was cut off in post, which is weird because that was the whole joke. So I don't know why they did that.
Okay, first off, I get the joke, but that's a weird joke to make. Like,
why?
I don't know, I just kind of feel like if they were gonna make it, they would have made it sometime before now.
I don't know.
It's like Wooten's been along for like almost half the show's run, and they still haven't made that joke.
I don't know. It's never a bad time to make a joke like that. Anyway, so yeah, Will's testimony was Bill's real testimony, and wow, the full story is a lot worse. Long story short of highlights, his uncles and his mom had him hooked on pot by the time he was 8 and smoking pot and drinking tequila when he was 4. He also said that
Like they gave it to him?
Yeah. They would like take bets on like how much pot he could smoke and how much tequila he would drink when he was 4 years old. He also said that the aforementioned abuse from the episode, which came from a complete stranger, when he said like, my mom gave me up to a stranger, he wasn't lying. Like she literally gave up full custody to a complete stranger, and that abuse came to him, he said, and I quote, in just about every type imaginable, which probably means physical, verbal, sexual, emotional. So yeah, it was a lot worse in real life than in the episode. Yeah, he said that by the time he was 8 that he was addicted to marijuana and that his mother was his dealer. So, yeah. So, moving on to more points. I learned that the state flag of Alaska, which is Ursa Major and the North Star as 5-pointed stars over a solid blue background, was designed by a 7th grade contest winner back in 1926. So they had a statewide contest for elementary schoolers to design the state flag. And this kid won, and it's still the state flag almost 100 years later. So it's interesting. Okay.
I'm just thinking, I'm sorry.
I know.
I'm sorry. Wow.
Yeah.
To come back from all that and the person he is now.
Yeah,
that's just
very powerful. I know, it adds a lot to the episode. That's why I have to watch the videos, Victoria.
But I have you to tell me about them.
Yeah, but then you have to process them on the air then.
Well, then you get the raw reaction.
True that. There's a discussion question on here, which was, what did Chief Tom mean when he said, in the past, people came in not to bless us, but to change us? What did Will do to earn his trust, and why is this important for all missionaries to remember? And after what I said last time about how much I appreciated how Carry the Cure wasn't just some white dude appropriating native culture to convert people, but was someone from their own culture who was reclaiming their culture as expressions of worship, I was really, really glad that they put that in there. And yeah, like I said before, the song from the end of the episode was recorded at an actual IRL Carry the Cure event.
And that is actually Jess Harnell singing, isn't it?
I think they might have added his voice in because he probably wouldn't have gone to Alaska to.
No, I mean but it's his voice in the episode.
He does sing in there, yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember if it transitions from him into the other thing or if maybe they just dubbed his voice in with the rest of it or what. But he does. I'm pretty sure he does sing in there.
I thought I heard him singing.
I'm pretty sure I did too.
Because there are 2 people singing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's like Will and him.
That's correct. So yeah, like you said, overall, the first episode started out very strong. The second one kind of like felt like it
kind of lagged.
Lulled a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then this episode had a whole lot packed into it.
And then like
with a bunch
the
of
ending
shocks and plot twists
scene.
and the whole thing with Rian and
the
Logan.
ending scene, Devin, with like what's his name? What's the kid's
Logan?
name? Zach? Logan? And then like the other kid, like, can you say bro TP? Oh my gosh, that was so awesome.
It was good. Yes.
I don't know about you, but did you get like actual conference feels?
I did too.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I know what you mean, because I did feel when they're playing, the fact that they played actual audio, I was like, I can feel it. Being there.
It's just like, it's so hard to describe. You can't describe it. You just get this feeling in your stomach, and then like, it's so hard to describe. If you've been to a conference, you know what we're talking about.
It's not that hard, but yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Overall, so yeah, over the course of the 3 episodes, we've covered a whole bunch of things. Like I said, we covered a whole bunch of super duper heavy topics, which is great. Some of them in depth, some of them in passing. Got to highlight a real life nonprofit that touches on all these things and does it. Wooten in with, really good, serious Wooten. Jeff Lewis, of course.
And another thing I like is it didn't need that many Odyssey characters to like bring the story out.
Yeah, kind of like a change of heart.
For all of the missionary episodes, we've gotten like a lot of characters, or at least like more than one usual character. Like we've gotten the entire Parker family, or like Wit and kinda Eugene. We got Eugenius in there and Wooten. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. And in this one, we just had Wooten. And then, like, we had Jeff. And that's great. So, you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yeah, seeing Wooten on his home turf, getting mention of his parents was excellent.
And you could just tell, like, how comfortable he was with everything there.
Yeah, that's what I love so much about it. He just felt so right being there. And it's like, yes. I mean, I'm not saying Wooten doesn't belong in Odyssey, but it's like you can tell, like...
You can tell how happy he was.
You can tell this is Wooten with the home field advantage. Even more so than in Odyssey.
You can tell that he had, like, that warm, fuzzy feeling inside of him. And it's just... Wooten,
I feel
he's
very
a character that's, like...
happy through
What?
it. I felt very vicariously happy.
Yeah, I know. Like, he's a character that's, like, always happy. But you can tell when he's, like... happy, like inside and out. Like moments like when Grady becomes a Christian, when he spends time with Penny and they're just really getting along, when he like proposes to her, and when he's in his hometown land, his home land and free, and he just is so happy.
I'd say the proposal was more kind of like nervous shyness, but yeah, the other examples, yes.
But when he's like, will you marry me? You can tell he's like that smile in his voice, and it's just
but it's not the same type as here or with Grady or stuff like that.
But like,
it's different. But yes, I know what you mean. And
he's all just, and they're like, we're gonna go on this mission trip. He's like, I've already saddled a moose. Let's do this. And
let's ride.
He's
still gonna be Thranduil.
He's like, let's ride into the night.
He's gonna go all Thranduil riding the moose.
Wooten has like, you go back to what things he's bringing home. He's like an antler throne. He's all set to go.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
Hopefully he made that after the fire.
Oh, why would you do that?
It's so sad. Yeah, the plot twist that Lewis actually died was really good, and I appreciated the fact that they didn't feel the need to make him have like the full 5 steps to salvation kind of confession thing, that they were able to let it stand on its own where his spirituality laid, and just kind of, in part leave it up to the listeners what happened. And I very much appreciated that. Like I said,
They also kind of leave it up to the listeners for what happened to Logan, and I kind of like that too.
That's true as well. Really, because I recall you being the person who said that you hate it when movies and stuff end without explicitly explaining what happens.
It depends on how they do it.
You got so mad at the ending of Mrs. Doubtfire for not explaining everything that ever happened ever again.
I rewatched Mrs. Doubtfire when we went to Ben and Kristen's and we rewatched Mrs. Doubtfire. I realized that I don't think they're going to get back together like the parents in the end, and I came to peace with that, and good. I'm okay with it. I think it's a very good ending to a movie.
Mrs. Doubtfire spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. Spoilers!
Yes.
Robin Williams died.
For a movie that came out like 30 years ago.
Yeah, what are you doing? We shouldn't have to say spoilers.
This is probably closer to 20. Anyways, yeah, like I said, the episodes did lull a bit in the middle. It felt like there was so much happening at the beginning of part 1 and like the first 2/3 of part 1 and the second 2/3 of part 3, but lots of the traveling stuff, and I understand they were trying to unload a whole lot of spiritual exposition in there, but I don't know, maybe that's the reason that it lulled so much, is just the way that they paced it felt kind of like that, you know?
Yeah. And
like
I feel bad for saying this. At the beginning when what's the dad's name?
Lewis.
He was just like, how are you still up there? How didn't you fall? He's like, it must be the hand of God holding me. And like the sentence before, he said something else too. And I'm like, my goodness. And that was like the only time in the episode where they did that. So I'll let them get away with it. Because they did do that again. They learned from part 2.
It's also slightly forgivable since Lewis died 30 seconds later.
Yeah. That too.
Yeah. Yeah, so overall, 4.9 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd say 4.9 also. I'd say either 4.8 or 4.9, taken off from all the problems I have with part 2. Other than part 2, it was great. Go listen to it now if you haven't done it yet. If you haven't done it yet, what are you doing with your life?
Yeah, you're always like, in case you haven't heard the episode, I'm like, well, don't watch us if you haven't listened to the episode.
Speaking of that, we never did a summary for the episode. Oh well, you can kind of survive. I think we talked about everything that happened in it, so we don't really have to summarize it.
I think you can piece it together by this point.
Yeah, so, we covered all the bases in this episode. Yeah. We talked about every scene.
Yes, and that is about it then. So now let's turn you over to the imagination.
Oh, one last point. I like how the mother was barely in the episode. I know it sounds kind of terrible, especially but she's like, "Oh, Logan," and she hugs him, and then she's gone for like the rest of the episode. So you have to admit that you appreciated that.
I don't think I have to admit that.
Yes, you do.
Anyways, on that note, let's turn you over to the Imagination Station Revisited Part 2. And we're back now to talk about episode 642.
Hello again.
The Imagination Station Revisited Part 2, written by Paul McCusker.
If you want to know what this episode's about, just go back to album 5, listen to The Imagination Station with Digger Digwillow, and then imagine it's from the Pharisees' story more so than the disciples, and put Kelly in there instead of Digger and throw in less jokes.
And more doors.
And screaming.
Yes. Okay, so to start off on that exact point, I love so much how this entire story is flipped to be not from Jesus's side. Like, even in the garden, she witnessed it standing with the temple guards. Like, every single moment in this story is from the opposite side, and I love that so much, getting the other perspective on it.
It's like the same as the Imagination Station, yet totally different at the same time.
It was such a good idea.
You know what it's like? It's like a companion novel in a book told from a different POV.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. I mean, the episode's called The Imagination Station Revisited. I love how mild Kelly's whisper, "Oh no," is right after Peter lobs a guy's ear off. Like, it doesn't sound bored, But Peter cuts the guy's ear off, and she goes, "Oh no!" And I'm like,
Well, they like
sounds
kidnapped her. You expect her to feel really bad for them, Devin?
no, but you'd expect her to be like, "Ack, blood!" A guy's ear just went flying across
Think
the
about
garden
the
or
environment
something.
she grew up in. She probably watched gory movies all the time.
I know, it's just funny because she's seeing it in person, and she's just like, "Oh
Also,
no!"
it's a computer program.
It's just really funny to me.
She's like, oh, there goes his ear. Ah.
I find it interesting. I don't know. Maybe I just don't have enough, or maybe this is the way that Judas is spun in the scriptures themselves, if spun is the right word to use, and I just haven't picked up on it or haven't heard enough sermons
Oh, are
going
you
into
talking about the I'm
detail
helping him thing?
about it. Sorry?
Are you talking about the thing where she's like, how could you do this? And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm helping him.
Well, sort of, yeah, because it seems like they spin off Judas as possibly actually wanting Jesus to fulfill his prophecies to talk to the temple leaders. Or
Yeah, I know. That was confused me.
or he could be lying, whichever. But like, I mean, we know from scripture that he stole money from the disciples because he didn't care about the poor.
He did.
But yeah, that's why he was their money guy. That's why he got so mad when Mary like poured the oil of spikenard all over Jesus' feet, and he's like, that could have that was a year's wages. We could have given that money to the poor. And it says, like in the actual verses in brackets, they're like, Judas didn't actually care about the poor. He was upset because he was their treasurer, and he always took money out for himself. So that's why he was upset.
Jerk.
That's why he was upset, because if she gave the money to them for the poor, then he could have taken his share of it.
Wow. What a jerk.
Yes. Judas Iscariot. But yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
It's
So
like, betrays Jesus. Oh, he's mean.
we know from scripture that he stole money from the disciples because he didn't care about the poor, but that doesn't preclude the idea necessarily that he could have actually still believed that Jesus was divinely appointed, at the least. In this situation, in this theoretical, he probably wouldn't believe Jesus was literally God. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have done that stuff, because he would have known that Jesus would know about it. But at the least, he could have believed that Jesus was divinely appointed and wanted to see him succeed. Because after all, the more success Jesus gets, the more money that Judas is able to embezzle.
What a jerk.
So maybe he really did want, maybe he really did have, good intentions in what he did, or at least that's how they're trying to spin it. I don't know. Granted, if it did go according to what Judas was theoretically planning there, and Jesus was able to pull
We're still talking about in the episode, though, right?
Yes.
Okay, not in the actual Bible.
No. Like, granted, if that's what Judas wanted, and Jesus was able to pull himself out of that sitch without dying, it would have been very hard for Judas to spin it like, oh yeah, I was trying to help you all along. It was for your own good. I definitely did not betray you for 30 pieces of silver. So, I don't know. Things to think about. I mean, Judas did feel very guilty canonically. I mean, he hung himself after he betrayed Jesus. So, I don't know. Things to ponder. Anyways, okay. So this is the thing, my biggest point to talk about in this episode, and the thing I love about Kelly so much. And while I was writing this out, I came up with a bunch more stuff about it. So, sit down. Okay, so Kelly lands in Pontius Pilate's quarters, and he immediately assumes that she's a servant and orders her to get a cup of water, and she immediately replies, yes, sir, and rushes off to get it. And 10 seconds later, he asks where it is, and she goes, here it is, sir, sorry. And the scene has always struck me right from the beginning, because it's very significant compared to every other child who has ever used the imagination station. And it's an excellent way of showing how Kelly's life has shaped her differently than the other kids in Odyssey. Because every kid who gets in the imagination station eventually gets mistaken as a servant, and just about every single one is either offended, or they refuse to do it, or they raise a ruckus. Yeah, especially like Elijah. Oh my goodness, the way that
with Robin?
That Robin reacts, yeah. I'm going to call the police. I'm going to get you arrested.
Lucy wasn't that bad, actually.
No, Lucy was good, but
yeah,
Kelly's... Yeah, either way, no one ever just instinctively obeys until Kelly. And as we know, Kelly was canonically raised in both a physically abusive and alcoholic household. And while that is obviously a terrible, terrible thing, I feel that this is one of the best scenes that she ever has to show how that has affected her as a person. Where she's dropped into a situation where she's yelled an order to grab a beverage, she complies instantly and unquestioningly. She says, "Yes, sir," without even having to think about it. And that's so sad because it makes you think about how many times her own mother snapped at her to grab a drink and she had to immediately comply or get the belt or the back of her mother's hand. And make no mistake, Kelly has no problem with questioning authority. We know that much from her early life with the Washingtons and at Wits End. But when someone yells at her when she feels threatened, her instinct is to obey without hesitation or complaint, to the point where she'll apologize unnecessarily out of fear. When he's like, "Where's my drink?" Even though it's only been like a couple seconds, she's like, "Here it is, sir. Sorry it took so long." That she'll apologize unnecessarily out of fear, which is, a very common sign of emotional manipulation and abuse. And it also, even more so, I realized on this listen through, really speaks to her own development that once Pilate starts talking to Cassius about Jesus, Kelly had enough courage to speak up to him about freeing Jesus. Like, she actually talks back to Pilate. Her deeply ingrained instinct is to obey orders in a pinch if she feels threatened. But once the moment passed and her instincts relaxed, Kelly was able to collect herself and she was able to speak for Jesus, in defense of Jesus, because her concern for Jesus was stronger than her fear of Pilate, and possibly by association, fears of her own mother that she was associating with him.
And she's even still scared. Like, you can hear her voice kind of quivering when she says that.
The fact that she put concerns for Jesus over her own fears and traumas of her past is an enormous testament to the spiritual development over the course of these episodes and leading up to the end of this one. So, yeah, that's my...
I just want to... It's such a small thing, but I appreciate it so much. No, it's a good catch.
That was a good analysis, wasn't it?
Yes.
Thank you. I did pat myself on the back because I was really happy about that.
Is the best analyses, is that a word?
Yes, that's the plural.
Usually come from the smallest little things.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. So as we come towards the end of the episode, I will always place the crucifixion from this episode as one of the most powerful scenes in all of Adventures in Odyssey.
I agree. It is far better than the one in the original Imagination Station. I love this scene so much.
The Imagination Station glitching out as Kelly's trapped in this nightmare purgatory, caught between reality and dreams, running frantically from door to door, trying to escape Calvary Hill, but being constantly thrown face first into the brutal agony at Jesus' death. The sound and the acting is beyond fantastic, and this scene was the first one ever in Adventures in Odyssey that brought tears to my eyes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
Not to cry, but they got me teary-eyed.
This scene makes me emotional too. I've never cried while listening to it. I don't think I have, but yeah, I might have gotten teary-eyed. I don't know, once or twice. I don't know. I haven't heard this one in a while, so yeah. I can't remember.
All right, so
but the scene is so good, and I don't think in the Imagination Station we ever heard we ever got a scene of what physically happened to Jesus. Wasn't Digger gone for that? He was in jail or something?
Basically, he came, and it was basically Jesus died.
Yeah, and Kelly had to actually watch him get whipped and have the crown of thorns put on his head and carry the cross.
It's so terrifying the way.
And she's younger than Digger, I'm pretty sure.
They're probably
or maybe
around the
same age.
I don't know.
I mean, she's more mature than him because of what she had to go through, but still.
Yeah. So
if she had an oh no reaction to someone getting their ear cut off, imagine how bad it was during that scene.
Yeah. So Wit finally yanks her out of the Imagination Station. He's like, "Sorry, there's all these bugs and problems with it."
And then he puts her back in.
I have to say, I'm mildly concerned that Wit had announced the release of the new Imagination Station for the next day, considering he still had problems like that to work out. I realized that I was like, wow, Wit should go to work for Ubisoft on the next Assassin's Creed. But,
Ooh.
man, that joke just wrote itself as soon as Wit said that line. Either that or the new, the PC version of Batman Arkham Asylum, or Arkham Knight, which was pulled from the Steam store because it was so glitchy upon release.
Are you serious?
The PC version, they pulled it from the store because it was so glitchy.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, as soon as Wit's like, this solves problems this big, we're releasing it tomorrow. And I was like, Wit, you should work on Assassin's Creed Unity. Yep.
You went there.
I went there. Okay, so we have the post-credit scene, which is the very, very famous segue into album 51, where Connie pushes the red button on an old
It literally started, and I'm like, because I wasn't really thinking about it. I was just kind of listening while I was doing something else. And then, like, Chris was doing a wrap-up, and Devin was waiting to record with me. And I'm like, okay, Chris is doing a wrap-up. It'll only be a minute. And then it kept on going, and then I heard Connie and Wit, and I'm just like, oh, next episode, I should pause it. And then I looked at it. I'm like, wait, minute left. I'm like, oh, man, it's this scene. I don't even have a name. I'm just like, it's this scene. Like, you should know which scene we're referring to out of all of Odyssey if we just use the words this scene.
I don't think so.
I'm kidding, Devin. But this scene was, like, so built up, and it was like, oh, man, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? And then it had, like, the most anticlimactic thing happen.
Let me talk about it, Victoria. I already wrote out my stuff about it.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So yes, this is the famous segue scene from album 50 into 51, bridging across the second hiatus, where Connie pushes the red button on an old-fashioned radio-looking invention, which later turns out to be the Inspiration Station. This scene went unresolved for 2 years, with the Truth Chronicles and Passages Darian's Rise between it before album 51 came out. And we finally found out...
And Devin and I caught up with Odyssey during this time period.
And we finally found out what happened to Connie. There is a relatively unknown, I think, bonus feature that came with the digital download version of album 53.
I forgot about that.
Which is Paul McCusker talking about and showing a, not a deleted scene, but like a theoretical scene. Yeah, an AIOO, based literally, I guess. Yeah, really literally, come to think of it. An AIOO, a scene with Connie, Penny, and Wit, which exhibits how this could have been used to create a reset button for the show post-second hiatus. In this case, where the Green Ring Conspiracy just ended here, and Penny and Connie are talking on the mountain, and Connie says that she needs to leave now, and she just, like, phases back into reality. And the entire last 3 albums were all in the Inspiration Station, and Connie tells Wit...
I remember I first heard that. I was so mad.
And Connie...
I was so furious. I was like, if they ever did that, I'd be so angry.
Connie tells Wade about her experiences in it with these new families, the Parkers and the Joneses, and the Green Ring Conspiracy, and the owl napping, and she name drops a few other episodes from albums 51 and 2. And so in that case, Penny was actually like Connie's spiritual guide through cyber inspiration space, just like space. Cyber
Why did she only show up in the 3rd album?
Just like Mortimer was to Matthew.
Okay, if Connie really did live all of that, where was she in the owl napping? Where was she in all these other episodes?
She heard about it.
Like, was she just like standing outside the window with like her face pressed up against the glass? And she's like, hey, I see you getting that owl haircut. That's really weird. And then she just, like, follows him down the street, like, follows him in the back of Hell's Diner while he's, like, eating that guy's soup and stuff.
Wow, did you see what
she, like, goes into the theater. And...
Yeah, that's why it has to be a radio show, because it would ruin, like, the plot twist if we actually saw Connie's face pressed against the glass in all of these scenes.
It's like Gravity Falls with, like, Blandon showing up in every episode, but it's just Connie instead. It all comes back to Gravity Falls, Devin.
I just... blend in.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna fall. knocked over my water bottle.
I cannot believe
I hate you, Alex Hirsch. I hate you.
he always blends into the backs of the scenes.
I can't believe it.
Whew. Thank you for all witnessing the realization that we just had for something completely unrelated to Adventures
I
in
hate
Odyssey.
you, Alex Hirsch.
Wow.
I hate you.
Have you ever seen anyone pick up on that before?
No, you should post that later.
I'm going to. I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh. Anyway.
The show just never ceases.
Connie Blendon.
It's been like, what, 3 years since you first
3
appeared on the
years.
show? It took us this
Yeah,
long to
3
figure that
years.
out?
Mm-hmm.
Blend in. Unbelievable. Okay, last point on the
I'm
list.
sorry.
I'm in shock.
I'm so upset right now.
After we
Okay, I just want to say, could you imagine if their excuse for all the people that disappeared between the hiatus is that there were still bugs in the imagination station, and Wit's like, go ahead in, and then all the
Inspiration
characters
station.
who we never heard from again went into the imagination station and were never seen from again because of the bugs, and they still wander here today.
Yeah. Okay, I feel like because we spent so much time being wowed over that, I'm just going to take 20 seconds, no more, to explain what we're talking about. In Gravity Falls, there's a character named Blendon Blandon who is a time traveler from the future, and in some episodes you see him go back in time to a bunch of episodes we've already seen and be in the backgrounds, and then you go back to those original episodes and realize that he actually was in the backgrounds of all of these episodes, and he was there in all of these episodes in the backgrounds and the crowds, but you never ever see him until the episode where we realize he went back in time. He was in all those places. So
Where the episode where you first meet him.
Yeah,
officially.
and his episode is, his name is Blendon, and we just realized it's because he blends into the backgrounds of all these episodes secretly until you notice it.
Also, there's the thing where he can change his outfit so it camouflages.
Yeah, anyways, no more talk about that off topic.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, after we posted the review of part 1, some people pointed out that it was possible that all of the rooms and hallways of the imagination station, the new one, could have been just inside the illusion of the machine. I just want to point out, in this final scene, Connie says about the new imagination
Halls
station,
and doors.
and I quote, "When you were renovating this floor, I really couldn't figure out what you were up to. The new hallways, all those doors," and it says, yeah, it allows more kids to have more adventures. So
I still like to imagine kids in like different things, seeing different things and just running into each other. They think it's a wall and then they just keep on going.
So then it means a couple things. There really are rooms in physical space, like I said. It sounds like Whit renoed most of the second floor to build it, adding in new walls in order to create all of these chambers. It's interesting that one of Whit's reasons was to allow more kids to use it at once, given that the previous model, which was first introduced in the American Revelation, could hold up to 10 people. Does Whit really need more room than that? I mean, I imagine, like, realistically, that he'd have thousands of kids from across the globe wanting to use it every hour of the day, but we know that it's not that busy, or at least not since the disability program in A Touch of Healing.
Dev, the thing is, they could fit 10 people in, but that was all the same adventure. The most they've been able to have is like 2 adventures at the same time that we know of, with like the partition between them. This was like all these people going on different adventures at the same time.
I don't see why those 10 people couldn't have different adventures.
Well, like,
I don't see why they couldn't.
Like the people in the control panel, they definitely had to be in one of the same adventures. Like, I don't think there's 10 partitions. I don't think there's enough room for that.
But do you need a partition, though?
Yes.
Why? They're not soundproof. It's not keeping anything out.
Wait, no. Wasn't the partition just for, like, separating the 2 parts? And they never... Have they ever had 2 adventures at the same time going on?
No.
Name one time that's happened.
No, they haven't.
Exactly. So that's why he built this, so multiple people can go on different adventures.
Yeah, but I'm saying they could do that before, and it's like, why is the partition there?
Name one point when they said they could do that before.
Sorry?
Name one moment when they said that they could send multiple people on different adventures at the same time.
Elijah, the first time he builds the partition, he says it's so that two kids could have different
Okay.
adventures at the
Yeah,
same
I was
time.
right about the partition. So, like,
Yeah, but
we know of two. We don't know if he was able to do it
no,
with more
but
people.
what I'm saying
With the
is,
doors, it sounds like he can have, like, as many people as he wants in there.
I know, but my point
So-
is that he built a new imagination station so multiple kids could have different adventures at the same time. But what function does the partition actually serve in that? As far as I can tell, it's just for aesthetic. It's just to visually separate you from the other person. Because my only other guess would be that it's soundproofing so that their adventure doesn't like interfere with yours and like subconsciously work its way in, you know, like when you're sleeping and you like listen to stuff, it works its way into your dreams or stuff. As has happened to me listening to Odyssey while I sleep.
It's happened to me too.
Anyways,
I met Jared once. That was cool.
I was in Blackguard's castle and it was a literal medieval castle.
Serious?
They are very cold.
I've had so many dreams about different things. I had a dream. Okay, I was listening
There's
to
no
Fences,
insulation
and I heard
in
a
a
Jared
medieval
episode
castle.
right after, and what it turned into was me sitting in a field with like a picnic bench in the background with people sitting there, like Connie and Eugene and a couple others, and there was like a white picket fence, but it was only like that, like not very long. It was probably about like 1 foot wide or 1 yardstick wide. And that was the only fence in there. And then it was just me and Jared sitting by a fence and talking. So that got from Fences and a Jared episode. There was a literal fence, and there was nothing about Connie's family angst.
That would have been for a much not as nice dream if you shoved Bill Kendall into it. But yeah, the story that I always tell people, can't remember if I told it on the podcast before or not.
I've had so many Odyssey dreams.
About my Odyssey dreams, listening to episodes while I sleep, is the time, can't remember what it was, might have been the Eternal Birthday, maybe we'll just say that as an example, where basically I was in the episode, it was taking place. Someone like says a setup line for a joke, and I think, hey, I know this joke. I learned it from this episode. I learned it from like so-and-so episode of Odyssey. And I didn't realize, I realized that, hey, I know this joke from Odyssey, but I failed to realize that I was literally inside that episode, and that's the reason I was hearing the joke was because I was living it. So it's basically like I'm in the Eternal Birthday, and Alex Jefferson's like, asked the joke about
the turtle sweater.
No, the joke about the house insurance and stuff.
Oh, right.
I mean, that was the punchline, not that. But yeah, about crabs and stuff. And he asked the joke, and I'm like,
whatever water animals.
I hear that, and I think like, hey, I know this joke. I learned it from that Odyssey episode, The Eternal Birthday. And I realized that, but I couldn't realize, hey, I'm hearing this joke because I am in fact currently living the episode, The Eternal Birthday. I was able to consciously recognize that episode was a thing without realizing that I was inside the episode, which is hilarious to me.
There was one time where this was actually horrific, and I probably repressed it, and that's why I haven't remembered it until now. It was actually one of the most terrifying dreams I've ever had, come to think of it, which really says something. I was in the episode Hide and Seek, and I was the main character in it, and everything else was the same. And I was in the part where it was glitching out, and I woke up, and I was, listening to that exact thing. I was in the same part when I woke up.
Yeah.
Which and is it was the most so similar... freaky, because, everything was, falling around me. It was actually,
The sky's falling.
Insurgent, when things are happening and then they start glitching out, in front of you and stuff, or,
inside the
But it's, reality, and it starts, glitching out and, shattering and stuff.
Yes.
That's what it was going on inside my dream while I was watching it.
Well, that's basically
and it was terrifying.
That's what I picture it like, and it's funny you bring that up, of course, because that is the most similar scene in all of Odyssey to what Kelly experiences at the end of this one. The imagination station glitching out is, even if we'd never heard it canonically, just thinking about that is just about the most terrifying thing that could happen to someone.
But, trust me, as someone who's lived it in a way, it was one of the most scary things I've ever experienced in my life. I think I was almost in tears when I woke up. I was so beyond terrified. And this happened when... I don't know, this probably happened 5-6 years ago. It happened quite a while ago. It was terrifying, though. So I was probably actually around the age of the characters who went through it.
All right, so back to the point, before we started talking about dreams and stuff. The partition in the imagination station, we know from Elijah, they can yell through the partition. It doesn't block out noise, which means the only purpose I think it can possibly serve is to visually block it off. So it's really more for the user's benefit and doesn't actually affect the ability of multiple people to use it, which means 10 people in the imagination station. Doesn't matter if there's partitions. They should all be able to go on different adventures.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think I do.
The only limiting factor should be the processing speed of the station.
I don't agree with that, but
fair enough.
You're free to think what you want to think.
That is true. And I'll
I can't stop
keep on thinking it. So, yeah, that's all I have to say for this episode. Final thoughts?
It's a very good episode, and the best scene is definitely the ending scene with her and everything's going crazy. And then she goes back in, and then all that stuff happens. It's really good. I don't know if I prefer it over the original Imagination Station, because there is the factor that, like, the original one, it's a classic. Like, it's where everything began. Without the original, we wouldn't have this one.
I feel like that's the only reason that people prefer that one over this one is just because of the nostalgia and the fact that it's the first one.
Well, it's not like it's a bad episode either. Like,
No.
It is a really good episode.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just nothing about the original that stands out to me. Like, this is so fantastic.
The digger Digwellow joke, excuse me.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I definitely prefer this episode over the first, as I've said. I think that it is a wonderful and brilliant reimagining of the concept of the original. It gives us a very original take on the crucifixion that I've never heard anywhere else, especially when the original tells the same one that you hear in literally every single telling ever. So the fact that this, turned it on its ear and gave us a different perspective and a different POV on it is just wonderful to me. I think it's Kelly's best episode on the entire show, and like I said, it just gives her so much wonderful character development, showing how her understanding of spirituality and her emotions towards those things have changed over the not too many episodes that she's had, and of course culminates in her salvation at the end. These are the last two episodes before the second hiatus, with the post-credit scene, leaving a cliffhanger segueing off over the course of 2 years before it's finally picked up in the Inspiration Station, Part 1.
It's not like he ever did anything with the Inspiration Station, which still really annoys me.
It's still supposed to come back, apparently. Are
you serious?
I thought they said when 56 was going to come out, they're like, this album will either have an Inspiration Station episode or there's going to be one that's coming soon. It'll either be in 56 or it'll be soon.
Yeah, it's going to come out when Sherlock Series 4 comes out.
Exactly. Because 56 was a couple albums ago now, so.
Only a couple.
One of these days, maybe it'll be an OAC episode, I don't know. So, overall, as cliche as it sounds, because of the way that we pick out episodes, yeah, 5 out of 5. This episode is incredible. I really don't have anything negative to say about it. It's just every single aspect of this episode. I love this sound design, the perspective, and the
transition between Part 1 and Part 2.
The new Imagination Station noises. And the fact that they finally gave it, it's the biggest redesign by far that we've had since the first episode, which is another reason why the title is Revisited, because they're revisiting not just the episode, the Imagination Station, but the concept of the Imagination Station as an object. And it's just, it's so good.
Can I just take a moment to rain?
It's so good. 5 out of 5. Yes, go on.
Can I just take a moment to rain some praise on the line? She's like, "What do you think, child?"
Or
and she's
some
like,
praise?
And she's rain, rain some praise.
Yes, go on.
Anyway, on the line, she's like, "What do you believe, child?" And she's like, "I thought I knew, but now I'm not so sure." That's in this episode, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I really like that moment because, for obvious reasons, I feel the need to give it 5 out of 5 stars just for your whole rant on Kelly and that one moment. And that's on top of all the other great things in this episode. This episode, would have 5 out of 5 already, and that just made me love it even more, that little tangent you went on. I feel the need to take off some things because the ending credits, like post-credit scene. I
Not a fan?
but I don't like the episode The Inspiration Station. And it just feels so anticlimactic to me. It was like hyped up for 2 years.
Yeah, it
and then
definitely
was
didn't
just-
live up to the hype, but that's not the fault of this
And-
episode.
Yeah, but I know, and it just opens, and you expect like something huge, like Penny or like Connie, like something huge to go on, and then it's like Connie's on a beach. Have fun with that. And anyway, I'll talk about that if we ever review Inspiration Station. Anyway, so I'm gonna give this episode 5 out of 5 stars in brackets minus 0.0000001. But whatever.
All right, then. So,
It's just for that ending.
that is the end of our reviews for today.
They were long reviews.
Yes, they were longer than usual, but these were both excellent episodes. So I feel that the lengths were justified. We spent a little long.
Okay, please tell us if you've ever had any adventures in Odyssey dreams
I was
before.
about to say we spent a little.
Because I actually really want to know.
I was going to say we spent a little long talking about the dreams, and then I yawned, cut off by that, funnily enough.
So I actually really want to know. So like, tell me if you've had dreams. Make me feel less crazy, please.
To Odyssey and stream of electric episodes. So, what are we doing next time, Victoria? You know this. We were working on it last night.
The what occurred.
Oh.
The top 10 plot twists in Adventures in Odyssey.
Correct.
Okay.
We're doing another top 10 countdown list, which for some reason isn't actually an official series countdown or top 10 or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe we could like retcon that at some point.
Haven't we already done a top 10 list before?
Yeah, we've done 2 in fact.
Yeah.
One of them was a headcanon video technically though. The Time Lord one.
It's like their child.
Yeah, their love child that came before anything else. It was the first of both series, if that was a series.
Time travel, man.
Yeah.
Why you gotta be so confusing? Mabel Pines,
Paradox
the love
clones for the win. Yeah, top 10 plot twists countdown. So join us for that next time. Until then, thank you for joining us on our side of the YouTube. This has been Devin Francis, also known as Leonard Meltzner.
And my bangs keep on falling in my eyes.
Thank you for joining us for the Adventures in Odyssey Oddcast.
Oddcast. Did I get it?
Nope.
That's what I thought.
Goodbye.
Bye.